welcome to the Beyond the Bestseller podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Schuknecht, and today's guest is Lauri Smith, author of Your Voice Matters. Let's get into it. Hi, Lauri.
Hi, Kelly.
Thank you so much for joining me on the Beyond the Bestseller podcast. I would love to just start out by having you tell me a little bit about yourself.
I am a public speaking and leadership coach for leaders, change makers, loving rebels who are feeling called to speak for some mission. And some of them would not go anywhere near a stage or turn a camera light on them if it weren't for that greater calling. Some of them might even say that they're comfortable and they've had some success on stages and in videos, and they're having a sense that there is something more, something kind of going through the doorway of authenticity to then get to soulful speaking, where they can actually transform the vibe in the room, even if that's a virtual room, when they speak.
Okay, so it sounds like you and I should chat outside of this podcast episode. But so I have humongous fear of public speaking, like embarrassingly huge fear of. I know everyone would say that, but like I have. So my mom always says this to me when I started this podcast. My mom was like, "I can't believe you're doing this. Like, do you remember when you hyperventilated in sixth grade when you were giving a speech?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do. I remember that." Yeah, like I actually chose my classes in college. I would read the description of the class and I would choose them based on which ones did not require any kind of public speaking. If I could avoid it, if it wasn't something that was required, that particular course, I would not take the course. Like I was like, I'm not doing it. Yet at this stage in my career, I started going to conferences and going like, it would annoy me. I would listen to somebody speak and I would go, I could teach this. I could do better than this. And so I forced myself to start doing video content to just get more comfortable with this type of content. Then I had my first actual public speaking, live public speaking event last year in May. I think I did okay, but I also am like, I know I need to do more of it and I need to get better at it. So all of that to say, I definitely want to chat with you more about that at some point. Because I think it's really.
I would love to. I would love to.
So what drew me to you is your book, Your Voice Matters. And so I want you to tell me just a little bit about that book. Sounds like I don't even know where you're going with this yet, but it sounds like it's probably one I also need to read. So what is the book about and why did you write it?
It is about speaking soulfully in every corner of our lives and seeing ourselves as leaders, which is all, public speaking scares some people away. Being called a leader pushes some people in the other direction. My take on it is that it's not the leaders that we all grew up with. Each of us can be a leader in our own lives, and our voice is one of the most major tools for doing that. We can have a vision, we can navigate toward that vision, and at some point we need to communicate that vision to others to get them to join us in fulfilling that vision and making it real. So it has stuff for the stage and the camera light, and it also deals with taking your seat at a table in a meeting. It was written a while back where the phrase "take your seat at the table" was all the rage. So it's helping people to feel like they're speaking from their soul and not trying to look the way somebody else has told them consciously or unconsciously that they should. It also looks at what has been done to us by the world. I believe we are all charismatic. We were all born with our 1 in 8 billion charisma, AKA presence, just like a fingerprint. And we knew how to breathe in a way that had our voice make people's hairs stand up on end on the other side of the house. And then we had to stand upright. And people came along and said things to us like, don't be too big, don't be too much, don't take up too much space, don't be too emotional. And we started suppressing our emotions and
Mm,
suppressing our breathing and our energy and our life force and our passion, which is part of what someone has recaptured, or maybe they've retained it their whole lives. When we look at them and we can't take our eyes off of them, and we call them charismatic.
mhm. So all of that, like saying that, I 100% identify with all of what you're saying, like the like suppressing things, like we're being told certain things about ourselves. Like I'm learning that as I'm building a business. Like this is a brand new world to me. And one of the things I have said since this began was like, I feel like myself for the first time in my entire career.
Mm.
I said that on the phone to somebody last week. And as it came out of my mouth, I was just like, it's so true. Like, I feel like was told certain things about myself and believed that. And I was always working for somebody. So doing the things that, you know, that you had to do the things that your boss tells you to do. Right. Like, so, just always feeling like I couldn't fully do the things that I felt were right or that I wanted to do, or, so anyways, all of that to say, like, I totally get that. Like, and also I'm experiencing this from my own, like, just my own journey of, well, now I'm in this world of starting my own business. So I'm learning that, like, wow, that's this, there is a whole side of me that I didn't even know existed.
Mm.
But so how do you work with people to help them, like somebody who didn't have that very drastic change in their career, or maybe they all have that, I don't know, but how do you work with somebody
Mhm.
to know like what's suppressing, what they're suppressing, and like, how to be, uh how did you put it, like just totally themselves, and be comfortable with that.
Yeah, be themselves, allow themselves to really truly be seen, and also to allow that to resonate out, to really fill the room energetically. The first thing, or for most people, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at what are the stories, the inner critics. I call them the soul suckers because they have a way of sucking the soul right out of the voice, which either causes us to not speak, what happened to you for many, many years there, or to speak and to have it feel like we're not really ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We're not very comfortable with sensation here in the Western world. So some of what people are experiencing and labeling fear may not even be fear. It may be like an Olympic athlete who's waiting for the buzzer to go off to swim the race of their lives, feels a lot going on. And because we're so uncomfortable in the Western world with sensation, we don't understand it. The soul suckers come in and try to shut it all down, which can create haywire in the system where we do go into fight, flight, or freeze on top of our body, trying to fuel us for this important moment. So we get to know what are the soul suckers that are there. And then those soul suckers may be kind of guiding us to put on a mask of something
Mm-hmm.
that is not us, what we think we need to be in order to be taken seriously or land our message, or that there's one good type of speaker or leader, when in reality, there isn't, particularly not in this day and age. The style of leadership and the style of public speaking that worked in different waves of the industrial era have created a kind of industrial speaking that served that time period. It does not serve the time period that we're in trying to raise consciousness. We need people's individual presence. So we'll
Mm-hmm.
look at the soul suckers as we move into, okay, the soul suckers are kind of playing defense, and not in a good way, like defense wins championships, not in that way. They're focused on what they don't want to have happen. I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to forget what I'm going to say. I hope I don't set somebody off. They're focused on that, which is like going river rafting and trying not to hit the rocks. If our
Mm-hmm.
attention is on the rocks, we're more likely to do it. So by setting an intention, I invite people to set an intention for the emotion or the energy or the vibe that they would love to feel happen in the room,
Mm.
which is like saying, I want a wild, adventurous ride down this river, or I want a smooth, connected ride with my raft mates down this river. And once we start setting those intentions and then looking for signs of movement toward it, everything begins to change for people.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of one of the first steps. Then we align the body, the breath, and the energy to be more like that way that we came in as babies,
Mm-hmm.
connected with that intention. So we're opening up physically, we're opening our hearts, we're breathing deeper. The breath is nourishing our voice and allowing our voices to ring out in a space. Our energy is hugging the room when we talk. And it's a relearning. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to take 10,000 hours to master. It takes some effort and it's different for every person, depend on what is going on with their breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last piece is inviting our listeners to join us in that intention that we set. So we're hugging them, and it's kind of like there's a little tug going, come on over here, expand, step into hope, love, possibility, curiosity, leaning in. Um, that's that's kind of the framework for how I work with people.
Love it. So the people that you work with, are they like, do you have people that are as drastically like fearful of public speaking like me, or are they, or do you have kind of a range of people who are like, they just want to kind of get better, and they have like, and those that have horrible, horrible fears of it? Like, have you taken somebody like me and turned them into an amazing speaker?
I absolutely have. And I would say I've learned over the years that there are people who are willing to speak about the fear, like you are. You're saying, I'm absolutely terrified, yet here you are on a podcast.
Hmm.
So there's some amount of fear that you've moved through, or you wouldn't even be able to get on the camera
Hmm.
or put your face in front of a mic and start talking. So there's kind of a tipping point of, are they stargazing or watching TED Talk? Are they in the like, I'm watching others and I'm sort of called, and yet I'm not ready to take a step myself yet? And then there's people who are answering that call, like yourself, and they've taken a step and realized, I took a step and no one exploded. Maybe this could work. And I do tend to work with people like yourself who are engaged in their life's work or a work of their life, not as much people working for someone else, unless they're really a rebel inside of that working for someone else.
Hmm.
And it's surprising how easy it can be when we let go of thinking that we're supposed to be doing it another way,
Hmm.
that we are not the leader that is required now. When you start to realize, oh, it's about breathing and really connecting to people with me there to notice. It's almost like that Michelangelo quote, I saw the angel in the marble and I carved until I set him free. That was in my teaching philosophy when I used to teach college acting classes. And that's what I feel like I'm doing. I feel energetic blocks. I see physically where people are holding back, and I help hold the mirror up for them to realize that they are a one of a kind work of art themselves.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I will say I'm very open. I talk about it all the time, like how big my fear of that is, because I want people to know, like when they do see me doing things that don't seem to fit the mold of, what I'm saying, like it's like, no,
Mhm.
I've gotten past a lot of that fear. still being in front of a room full of people scares the crap out of me. But
Yeah.
but I did it, like, and I did it, and I was like, okay, I've done it once, now I can do it again. But I started with really just doing TikTok videos, like in 2020,
Mm-hmm.
around there, I think. I started just like doing TikTok videos, and I'd have people go like,
Mm-hmm.
why are you doing this? And I'm like, it, to me, that was just like putting myself out there in this way that I had never done before. And I started
Mm-hmm.
doing video book reviews and things like that because I'm obviously a book lover. And
Mm-hmm.
so I would read books and then I would review them on TikTok, on YouTube, whatever. But I would just start doing it. And it still feels very uncomfortable to me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny. I've had so many people tell me, like, you're just such a natural at that. And I'm like, I don't know what you are
Mm-hmm.
seeing. It does not feel like that to me. But
Yeah.
the more I do it, the more I'm just like, okay, I can let go of some of my insecurities. Like if I mess up, it's okay if I say, the wrong word, or like, I just try to let go of some of that and just put things out there. Of course, I might take several takes of it before I put it out there, but I still,
Mm-hmm.
just force myself to do it. And,
Yeah.
that's what's worked for me. So I want to tie that into, before we started recording, you had mentioned to me your writing process, and I, now getting a little bit of an understanding of what you do. I'd love to talk about that a little bit more. So
Yeah.
share with us, with me again, but with the audience now, how you approach the writing process for that book.
Yeah, I will share the writing process. And before I forget, I had one more thought about how I
Yeah.
work that you sparked by saying you're good on video and it's with the people looking at you. The other piece that I didn't mention about my favorite way to work is in intimate groups, much like an acting studio. If you've ever seen that old TV show Inside the Actor's Studio, it's small groups so that the part of you that is unraveling traumas with big T's or little T's gets to be in a small group of people that are walking the same path as you.
Mm-hmm.
And in my experience, people will be sitting there just like you were, thinking, how can you possibly be saying that this is interesting? And then the person next to you is saying, how can you possibly be saying my story is interesting? And then they go, and you see that someone who was saying the same, how can this be interesting? How can you be saying this is good? From it's like 1 to the 10th, well, 1 to the 10th power is probably still one, but it's like amplified
Yeah.
exponentially because of this small group healing and releasing the fight, flight, or freeze,
Mm-hmm.
while your brain is also really grasping, oh, if she's that captivating, maybe I'm actually that captivating too, in a
Mm-hmm.
way that one on one, it's like I could say that to you 1,000 times and you will not believe it as much. You will not take it into your cells as much as you would in a small group.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get that in there. And my writing process, I am a big talker. I wrote in the book when I was writing it that I discovered I believe we each have a primary language. Our soul has a primary language, not French or English. But for some of us, our primary language is the body, and that person might become a dancer or a basketball player. For others, it's music. For some of us, it's talking. For some people, it's writing.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the sense at the time that a lot of my clients' primary language was writing. So they were scared, but curious, sitting at home by the fire with a blanket and a cup of tea. And I wanted to reach them with something in their language. So I wrote a book for them and became even more empathetic to them because taking speaking as my primary language and trying to put it into the written form, I had all the stuff come up that comes up for the people I work with. And I came across someone who worked by basically getting you to talk your first draft of your book, recording all of it. She could transcribe it. I think I told her I didn't need the full transcription. She put notes in a Word doc, and when she handed me the Word doc, I was immediately in the rewriting phase, which if you've ever done any writing, as long as you keep the channeling phase, get it all down on paper, and the rewriting phase separate. The rewriting phase for most people is when things really start to click because there's something there and you're just kind of yes-anding it. That's
Mhm.
good. And I want to add here, that's good. And I'm going to trim it back in this area.
Yeah. I loved when you explained that to me because that's the exact approach that I take with people writing a book. So I've typically worked with like entrepreneurs, CEOs who they tend to be the talkers who can get in front of a room and they know their message, they know their audience, they're really good at saying it. They're
Mhm.
really bad at sitting down and typing, and
Mhm.
speaking and typing, right? Like, um, so I've worked with that type of person where I will just schedule interviews and go like, okay, let's, we can outline the book, and then I'll just ask them to talk to me about this, and they'll just talk, 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 talk. I could record them for an hour, and then I can take that. And used to be that I had to sit and actually transcribe it. Now there's lots of handy AI tools that I can just stick it right in there.
Yep.
Saves a lot of time.
Yeah.
But so I can get the transcript, then I can take it and I can, then do the writing for them, or like what you did. I've worked with people who then will take it and refine it themselves.
Mhm.
Um, but I love that you said that because I don't hear many people doing that. But that process has worked so well for me because, like I said, CEOs, entrepreneurs, they're busy. They don't want to sit down and do this. They want that book. They want to have it in hand to go, when they're speaking or going to
Mhm.
events. They want to be able to have that book to give people. But it's really hard to get from, the idea of writing a book to actually having it in hand,
Yeah.
unless that's your language, sitting down and writing. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I love that was the process that you took.
Yeah. I even hit resistance at various points after that. And I remember one of the things that I did to trick myself was setting a timer for an hour at a certain time of day. And I'm doing book now. So if that meant I just kind of laid down and meditated and sat in the fact that I had nothing coming to me for an hour, that's what I did.
Mhm.
And pretty quickly, I found myself going to the computer and at least typing in the computer how much I hated that I was doing this exercise to, and then all of a sudden that turned into, okay, oh, I can rewrite this section. So that was
Yeah,
involved in my process as well.
yeah. Well, it's great to know. I mean, there's, you're the speaking coach, the public speaking coach, and then there's also those coaches that you can find that can help you with the writing if that's not your skill set, So,
Yeah.
but having that book is so great. Um, so I want to start to wrap us up. I hate to do it because I want to keep talking to you and learning from you, but I will link to this book in the show notes.
Mm.
I do want to ask you, do you have any other books that you are planning to write, or what, are you a one and done author?
I don't think I'm a one and done. And I also do not have a specific book that I'm planning to write. Although I will say, as we're kind of sitting here talking, I was thinking, oh, maybe I should talk to you when I do get around to even what I wrote in the past. I have kind of updates for, and there's a story that I now know and share is at the heart of being a good speaker of my own that is not in this last book because it was not clear to me that it was all interrelated until I worked with a branding coach who helped me
Oh, nice.
understand and have that moment come to me. So there is a possibility of another book.
All right. Well, you know where to go when you get to that point. Well, so what other resources can we share with listeners for if they're looking for a public speaking coach or other kind of things that you offer? Where can we send them to find you?
The best place to go is my website. It's voice-matters.com, and there are quizzes on that site. There's a blog on that site, and I also have a podcast now called Soulful Speaking, and you can link to your favorite podcast platform from there. If you're into Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, if you scroll to the bottom, you can also find those links there.
Awesome. Well, we'll share those links in the show notes, and I am serious when I say I will reach out to you because I definitely need your help. So we'll be in touch very soon. So
Yeah,
thanks for coming
wonderful.
on, Lori. I really enjoyed talking to you and getting to know about what you're doing.
Me too. Thank you so much, Kelly.
For a community of women writers to support and inspire you on your journey, join the Author Power Circle. Connect weekly with fellow authors, stay accountable, and move your book forward in an encouraging community. Learn more at kellyshuckneck.com.